The obvious question, in what was last season like for you?
It was a great opportunity to learn. And I think that's learning the guys, first time, back being gone a year, and working with the group in a while, and really learn and just understand that everybody is important. Like coaching every guy is really, really important. We learned that lesson last year. And I think the nice thing is you're reaping the rewards of that this year with, man, all the guys, the communication, what we're doing from the ones to the fours. Like there's not a lot of drop off right now. And I think that has been the silver lining of what happened last year with the injuries that we had.
What was it like as a coach to sometimes probably just tell somebody to go in like a Ryland Barnes, maybe just pin your ears back and go because you don't have experience in it. You don't have, and to see them grow and then with understanding. And as you said, to then develop that depth, not only for your unit, but probably special teams too.
Yeah. I think the big thing, like when you ask that, like, what was it like? Well, one, you're always nervous because they haven't been in, but you did have a little bit of confidence because those guys showed up at practice. Like it wasn't the first time that Ryland Barnes was making plays. Like he was doing it in the spring before, he was doing it in fall camp. And again, it just was with a 3 or a 4 group. And then when his opportunity showed up, and we always talk about the moment here, he was ready for his moment. So kudos to all those guys that had to go in early, and we had to make it simple, and they let them play fast, and they did. And we had some growing pains too as young guys when things got hectic. But man, they kept pushing, and they never looked at what happened in the past. They always had a what's up next mentality, which is obviously really important.
The term Meditas come up quite a bit this preseason, and I think it probably applies a lot to the linebacker room. I mean, keeping all those guys happy, keeping them happy for one another. How has that gone for maybe you? Are you a big proponent of Medita, and how have you kind of instilled that in your guys?
Yeah, it's something obviously that's really important to all of us here, and Coach echoes that, every team meeting whenever we're around our guys, and I think they just naturally do it because of all the time we spend together. I think our group is one of the closest groups, and I'm sure every coach would get up here and say that. And man, it's all the time you spend together. It's what you're doing for each other. And man, if you came out to practice, when guys make plays, you see the other linebackers cheering them on, celebrating together. Man, you look at games last year, man, Cooper Eagle gets a TFL against West Virginia. The first 2 guys that come and celebrate with him are the linebackers. So I think they have belief in that, and they understand too, like, man, not every guy can play, but every guy has value. And I think they understand that, and that's why we have such great Medita.
And you were probably a 3 deep across the board as far as guys that have played snaps at linebacker. What went into the decision to move Samuel Samay to linebacker, and is he kind of slotted in at Sam, or what's his role going forward?
Yeah, the big thing for him is his athletic ability is the one thing that he has. The kid can really, really run, and he can strike. He can do a lot of things, and obviously he's got a growing curve to learn, but man, his athletic ability to help us out in the room. And again, like we do have a lot of guys that can play, but every guy's got different skills and different traits that make them a little bit different. And obviously his skills being a former D lineman are different, just no different than Zach Lovett, who plays on the edge and played on the edge in high school. Kaleb Bacon coming off the edge a couple of years ago when he was healthy. So he kind of fits into that Zach and Bacon mold a little bit.
I'm going to ask you a pretty simple but probably pretty confusing question. How do you determine who plays and when you have so many guys who played a year ago in so many different roles?
Yeah, I think the first thing is trust. And that's the first thing we talk about in team meetings is who do you trust the most? And obviously I say that, and I trust a lot of guys. But it's the guys that have been the most consistent in camp. And I think the big part is for me being very, very detailed in how I grade the guys and being really hard on them. Like the standard is the standard. Like just because you made a good play, if you stepped the wrong way or you were looking on the wrong key, like you're getting a minus. So being really tough on those guys and how we grade and how we coach them, and then we'll find out, greatness rises, and we'll take the 3 guys that are playing the best, and then obviously the guys will fill in behind, and we'll have to take significant reps as well.
How much of this fall do you want to be able to rotate your group relative to their strengths in certain down and distances compared to finding 5 guys who you feel like you can rely on and allow others to maybe develop in the shadows and away from the field on Saturdays if possible?
I think we'll know more of that once we get done with camp, because right now what we're doing is we're moving guys all over the place. We're getting different groups to go together, different mics with different Sams and different Wills, because I think the biggest thing is there is going to be guys that play, and they got to know how each other play with each other. Like, man, like How does Kaleb Bacon play when I'm in there with him? How does Cooper Evil play? How does Kaleb Berina play? Like, you got to create that continuity and that communication, so whoever's in the game, they can go play fast together because they know what each other are thinking.
You kind of just hit on it with Alec, but this idea that maybe you could identify certain elements of the game that a linebacker does really well, and maybe hone that as his strength in certain down and distances.
Mm-hmm.
How much of your time this season has maybe been spent on that idea of, hey, what is this one trait that this one linebacker does really well?
I think right now we're at the beginning of fall camp, and we're working on the common things, the simple things like read steps and keys and our base offense and our base defense as a team. And we know what those guys' traits are. We see those things in some group indie stuff, and we'll know what to do when we put together schemes against teams. But right now it's, man, who's the most consistent? And then we'll figure out all that other stuff. We got to figure out who we are and how we do things before we figure out what it is we're doing.
Aside from the consistency, is there other key criteria that you look for when identifying potential starters versus the rest of the rotation?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is communication. Like, if that's your superpower, if that's your elite trait, or you're a great communicator and you can get the other 10 guys lined up, like, man, you're going to be in a really good position. And I think on top of that is knowing where your help is. We talk here all the time, defense is knowing where your help is. So if you know where the other guys are fitting within the scheme of the defense and you know where you need to fit, man, you're going to be in really good shape. Other than the obvious, the biggest, the fastest, and the strongest, I think those are the most important things.
Is the competition wide open right now? And at what point of fall camp, is there like a target date that you usually set for yourself when figuring out your starters?
I think when you know. And right now we're still in the heat of the competition. And like I said, we're putting guys with the ones, putting guys with the twos, the threes. We're moving guys all around. And we got to figure out who works best together and who's playing the best. And I think as we get closer to Ireland, we'll have a pretty good idea. But right now, I think it's wide open.
Coach, how big a deal is it for the room just to have Kaleb Bacon back and healthy?
I think it's huge. The leadership that he brings, the experience that he brings. The biggest thing for him is, man, he goes out there and makes plays. Everybody feeds off him. And I think that's been the big thing that I've noticed in fall camp. And, him coming back from an injury, like, you'd think the kid would, have to build some confidence. Like, no, it's like he never left, which is awesome for our team.
Coach, what did you see from Kaleb Berina when he had to step into a role pretty early in his career?
I think I saw maturity. Like, that guy went out there in his first game against Iowa, and he communicated really well. He played fast, and he played physical. And I think he's grown a ton too. And he's still, in our eyes, he's still young. Like, he missed some time last year with some injuries, and he's been growing. But that guy's been doing a great job all fall camp, and I'm excited to see what the season has for Kaleb moving forward.
Physically, Kale is about as well developed as any linebacker in your room. How impressive is it to see a kid come in with the muscle mass that he has, and then he's been able to build and maintain his flexibility, mobility, speed that you guys still demand from players?
Yeah, I think the big thing there is it's a shout out to our strength staff, our nutrition staff, and his effort to find the inches within those areas. Because you're like, there's a little bit of genetics and stuff like that, but man, when you're at that point, like, that's hard work and determination. We talk in our room, man, nobody cares, work harder. Like, no one cares if you did good or you did bad. Like, you just have to work harder and take care of your business. And he does that in all facets of his life, and all our guys do, from sleep to nutrition to school. Like, they're well-rounded student athletes, and it makes me extremely proud to be their coach.